James Kaufman, World News Report today. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had an aftershock in the Philippines under several active volcanoes, really near or on a plate tectonic boundary, right under the 7.4 magnitude earthquake we had yesterday. This one came in very strong as well at a 6.7 magnitude. Came in as a 7 on the DYFI, a 6 on the shake map. There was an associated tsunami warning. They guesstimated that it was at around 61.2 kilometers of depth. Again, this was an aftershock of the 7.4 magnitude earthquake that we had yesterday in the same exact location. Jumping over to volcanoes and earthquakes.com, you can see the two quakes, the 7.4 and the 6.7 here, right on top of one another. You can see active volcanoes to the north, within the northern part of the quake. And we see active and awakening volcanoes to the south as well. You can also see it's on a plate tectonic boundary there in red. So what do we have? A 6.7 main source USGS. The Germans came in at 6.7 as well. We came in at 61 kilometers. They came in at 60 kilometers. We also had the French chime in. A magnitude 6.5, 80 kilometers of depth. Always chiming in with the weakest numbers. Let's get some detailed information on this quake. Take a quick look at exactly where it is. We've got a bunch of plate boundaries running through this area. And as expressed, we have several volcanoes erupting to the north and several volcanoes awakening and erupting to the south. Looks like we've had more than just these two earthquakes, but these are the two main earthquakes we've had in this area. Just off to the west-southwest, we also had a 6.3 magnitude, right where we had a 6.0 magnitude earthquake just yesterday as well. Right on a plate tectonic boundary, really one that's got a lot of problems. And right under several erupting volcanoes. Over to volcanodiscovery.com, taking a look at that aftershock. The aftershock of the 7.4 magnitude being a 6.7 magnitude earthquake, still being called very strong. And of course it happened today, Friday, October 10th. And this one popped off exactly where the 7.4 did. It looks like we've got some movement on that plate there, and you can see these two volcanic ranges, really three coming through this area here. This aftershock was originally rated as a 6.9 magnitude earthquake. That's some aftershock. Here we have some earthquake details, USGS being the main reporting agency. Let's see, 61 kilometers of depth. And this released about 10.6 atomic bombs worth of energy. So you can see there's a huge difference between a 6.7 and a 7.4 as far as the strength released and the strength of the quake itself. All right, up next we'll compare earthquake data from different reporting agencies. It looks like the USGS came in first with a 6.7, 61 kilometers, followed by the Germans at 6.7, 60 kilometers, followed by the French, a 6.57. And that was at 80 kilometers, a little bit deeper. The Australians coming in at 6.8, 72 kilometers of depth. That's the strongest so far. I did say that many of the reporting agencies came in at 6.9 originally, And the Indonesian agency is sticking with it here. A 6.9 magnitude earthquake. It's going to be at 56 kilometers in depth. So many other reporting agencies started out with a 6.9, and Indonesian government decided they weren't downgrading theirs. Again, 56 kilometers in depth. We have the Incorporated Research Institution for Seismology at 6,761 kilometers of depth. And then we have the Philippines chiming in. They called it out as a 6.8 magnitude earthquake, 68 kilometers of depth. And finally, the Europeans came in at that original 6.9, a default depth of 10 kilometers. Right, we can tell by the asterisks that a depth given as 10 kilometers often means that the depth of the quake cannot be determined with sufficient accuracy, as is the case here. Now, we do have a tsunami warning with this earthquake. Let's see if a tsunami was created, shall we? All right, over to the National Data Buoy Center. We have two buoys in event mode. We have station 52405 and station 52403. Take a look at both of those. You can see the very small event here. We'll open up the details for that. And then we'll take a look at station 52403. And we can see the event here in red. Also a very small event. Open up the details for those. And let's take a look at what type of tsunami was created. All right, this was the event down here in red. You can see it on the water column table here in red. And when we zoom in, we see that it was a fairly long event, believe it or not. It's lasted over 3 minutes, which is unusual. However, we didn't have a lot of movement whatsoever in the water column depth or height. This was a very, very small anomaly. We can't really call this a tsunami. We'll call it an anomaly. It looks like it was a little bit larger than a half of a centimeter. Although, again, it lasted over 3 minutes. That was station 52405. Let's see what 52403 looks like. All right, here we see the same thing. The event lasted over 3 minutes. A very long event. Here it looks much larger on the water column table. And this buoy must have been much closer to the earthquake itself. Here we have movement. Let's see. It looks like about 6 centimeters. So, not a real big tsunami, but I guess it does qualify. 6 centimeters of movement. Again, long term though, in my opinion, 3+ minutes. Maybe a better term is event instead of tsunami here again. And here we can see those exact 6 centimeters from 4.5 to 5.1 right there. Let's get a summary of this 6.7 magnitude earthquake that, well, was really an aftershock of a 7.4. We had an associated tsunami warning. Turned out to be about 6 centimeters. And came in as a 7 on the DYFI, a 6 on the shake map, about 61 kilometers of depth. Again, that's on a plate tectonic boundary, and we have active volcanoes to the north and south, right there in the Philippines. A very active region. God bless, folks. Stay safe out there. We've just had another earthquake pop off, so we'll be following up with another report.